Good afternoon, everybody. Hope everybody's doing well on this June 1st, 2024. Life is flying by. And we could possibly get some rain here later today, but I wanted to read something to you. It's actually part of a short video posted by another creator. And I went into the transcript because I wanted to read this to you because it's really important to understand this and also to share this information. Please remember to hit the thumbs up. It helps the channel grow, get the message out there, and combats the neighbors and cyber stalkers, which we'll discuss right here. So now this is from Karen Stewart. She is a retired NSA analyst and whistleblower. She was there for 28 years. So she knows a thing or two about what's going on. So now she specifically states the following. Post 9/11 laws are being purposely misinterpreted to say that since we are the USA reserves the right to unalive terrorists anywhere, anytime, that if we lower the criteria to less than probable cause in regard to the terrorist watch list, which was done in 2013, then thousands of random people can be put on the terrorist watch list, no questions asked. The DHS, which is the Department of Homeland Security, get this one, guys, they have made a separate for-profit Department of Homeland entity and is selling hit lists, selling unalive contracts on innocent people to their buddies in the military-industrial complex to torture and unalive people, to test on humans using weapons like gases, poisons, directed energy weapons, nanoparticles, SEC secreted medical chips, and even networks of chips that, according to the Pentagon, comes in as a torture protocol. Through Five Eyes, at least another protocol is being used. It is to order law enforcement to write off anybody who complains of stalking or harassment as being tortured as crazy, because they are forbidden to help the person and are denied their constitutional rights. Well, you know what I say about that. If you're not going to do your job and you're going to listen to somebody telling you to avoid somebody's constitutional rights, to break the law, if you are ordered to break the law, what do? Sheriff, you break the law? Huh? Didn't you take an oath to not break the law? So anyway, this is called bribery, right? It's called bribery, treason. Oh, it gets even better. And we knew this already. Infragard vigilantes under the opus of the FBI, you know, my favorite Bureau of Instigation, and the fusion centers. They're paid with your tax dollars. Infragard vigilantes under the opus of the FBI and fusion centers are paid to stalk and harass the victims so that the harassment mimics what one-dimensional psychologists immediately assume is schizophrenia, delusional paranoia, when it's absolutely not. And I'm just going to say, for the record, folks, first of all, people are overly diagnosed with schizophrenia. Okay? The GOV is deliberately causing regular people to hear conversations in their skull as a result of technology by these rogue criminals, okay? Also, you suddenly don't become schizophrenic at 40, 50, 60, or 70, or even 80. You just don't. And also, delusions? Okay, well, how do you define the delusion, okay? And what about paranoia? How is it paranoia when you've got morons driving down the county road, revving up their engines? Oh no, nobody heard that. Nobody heard it. Well, let's do some gaslighting. Nobody heard it. Nobody heard it on my channel. Nobody heard it on the county. All the neighbors around here and this quiet county road, nobody heard it. So, you know what? It must be that the entire town is delusional, which wouldn't be far from a stretch. So psychologists immediately assume that this is schizophrenia, delusional, paranoia, when it's not. This constant form of harassment was perfected by the former East German communist secret police as psychological warfare to destroy dissidents. Since there are millions of dollars to be made from using non-consensual human experimentation even to lethality. And actually, since we've got robots and AI, there's absolutely no reason, zero, to ever experiment on a live animal or human. Zero. Zero. There are mathematical models that you can see online through AI. You never have to experiment on a human or an animal. Okay, so this is all BS. It's all for torture and profit. This program is viciously covered up with an intricate network of paid conspirators. The DHS has even developed another protocol to take out life insurance policies, trust funds, and joint properties in the names of their intended victims, as was done to the 9/11 victims. I have a question about that. How would they know which 9/11 victims or would have passed? How would they have known? Unless they piled the names on at the last minute when they found out that people were missing and then took out the policies. That would be an interesting research project for someone. Certainly would. But anyway, but guys, it's a big secret. It's a big secret. Yeah, the program is viciously covered up with an intricate network of paid conspirators. Sort of like all of those cyber stalkers on YouTube and Facebook. Those cyber stalkers, we know who they are. Some of them are gorillas. And they're all complicit. They're all complicit, but karma's on its way every day. They use psyops, right? They use psyops. It's psychological operation. They use the psychiatric reprisal to punish the truth teller. It's psychological warfare. They don't want you to influence the opinions, emotions, and behavior of people. So what they do is they create a psyop for you. And the psychiatric reprisal. They did this. They were been doing this since the 1800s. You know, when women started coming forward, because they would call women hysterical. They weren't hysterical. They were experiencing trauma-based mind control and satanic ritual abuse and sexual abuse, usually by their fathers and grandfathers and brothers, etc. Of course, it was all a big dark secret. However, when women started speaking up in therapy, the therapists back then, the psychiatrists, were usually men, okay? And the men, they were being paid by the family members. It wasn't like you had insurance, health insurance back then. When you went to a medical doctor, psychiatrist, that psychiatrist was paid by the family was usually paid by the father. And the father would kind of like bribe the psychiatrist, when the psychiatrist possibly mentioned to the family that, well, your little Mary there, she's really not hysterical. She's been sexually abused, but you know what? Let's strike a deal. I won't tell. If you won't tell, just hand me a few bucks and we'll just keep her in this institution and medicate her into submission so nobody will believe her. How about that? And that's what they did. There's a psychiatrist, older psychiatrist, she's not around anymore, I don't think, named Alice Miller. And she wrote several books on the topic because she interviewed these women later because they were gaslit by the people that were supposed to help her, the psychiatrists, the psychologists, because they were mostly men back then. And of course, when they found out that these girls, there was nothing wrong with these girls other than that they were experiencing trauma from the sexual assaults by family members and their friends, they had to shut them up from speaking the truth and destroyed thousands and thousands of lives of women because of men who did the down and dirty and wanted to cover it up, just like they're doing now. Times have not changed, but women are speaking up, and people are going to prison. And anyway, I don't know if you've been following this case as I have been. It really pisses me off a little bit. There's this narcissist, psychopath, Chris Gregor. He's the son of David Gregor and his go along to get along mommy. Well, anyway, the father, Chris Gregor, is a retired New Jersey trooper, and he actually worked for the Department of Homeland Security, and he's retired and all that stuff. You can see that the apple doesn't fall far from the tree. So anyway, Big Daddy finds out, and Little Daddy, yeah, because Chris Gregor, you know what he did? Yeah, he should be on the sex offender list, because what he did was he knocked up his girlfriend when she was 16, and he was 21. But nobody was talking about that at the trial. Nobody discussed that at the trial when we're waiting for sentencing, but I hope to hear some more on that topic. But anyway, so that 16-year-old becomes pregnant. Her name is Brianna Mikolo. And she has this beautiful baby boy, adorable, sweet. So for 4 years, they lived a very happy, healthy life and whatever. And then she decides, 4 years later, 16, 17, when she's 20, right? She wants to contact the father, maybe because she's such a good woman, Maybe the father wants to get involved with his son. Contacts him. Well, all hell breaks loose. Because the narcissist, trooper, daddy, grandfather, he wants to take control of the situation. He finds out that his son knocked up a 16-year-old. Wow. We've got to cover that up big time. So what are we going to do? We're going to try to steal that little boy away from the mommy. And we're going to control the situation. And then my son, the narcissist, Chris, we can all have custody. And she won't have custody. She'll only have visitation rights. And then we won't have to pay child support either. So Big Daddy Trooper uses his money and influence and steals that little 4-year-old away from the mommy and gets full custody. They get full custody. But Chris, the narcissist, the entitled, spoiled brat son, he really doesn't want a son. He wants to go out and play with other little girlies. He wants to go work out at the gym and hang out and have no responsibility because, Big Daddy has been covering his butt his entire life. And that's what happens with narcissists. Everybody thinks, oh, we feel sorry for the narcissists because they were so abused as children. No, most of them were not abused as children. Most of them, I mean, if you want to call it abuse, were never reprimanded. They did whatever they damn please, and people like grandfather would get their sons out of every mess so they never learn the consequences of their actions. So you can name this family. This family is responsible for the death of that little boy. That's right, I call them accessories to unaliving. But anyway, we're going to fast forward. So the verdict came down yesterday with bated breath after all these months. And lo and behold, the jury, well, at least on 2 counts. The little narcissist, Chris, he will be going to prison. But his daddy, you could see the expression on his face. He pulled as many strings as possible. You can see that little pompous expression on his face. Yeah, he lives in New Jersey. He lives in Monroe, New Jersey. That former trooper trying to get his son out of prison. Meanwhile, the 6-year-old adorable little boy is gone because you want to know why? You want to know how he died? Well, besides the fact that he had been systematically abused and tortured by Chris, and we don't know even to what extent. However, and thank goodness for security cameras at the local gym, because you could see Chris sticking a 6-year-old little boy, skinny as can be, telling this little boy that he's too fat and he needs to lose weight, sticks him on a treadmill while he goes and works out on the other side. So this poor little 6-year-old is on the treadmill. And then you see Chris, the narcissist, walk over to him, say something to him, and he speeds up the treadmill. Speeds it up. And then he decides he's going to speed it up again. And then for a 3rd time, he speeds it up so fast that the little boy, Corey, his name is Corey, falls off. He slides off. He can't keep up. He's 6 years old. He shouldn't even be on a treadmill, right? He should not be on a treadmill. No 6-year-old should be on a treadmill at a gym, unsupervised, okay? So this moron, psychopath, Chris, torturer, decides he's going to speed it up. Not once, not twice, but 3 times. And then, of course, when little Corey falls off on the floor, he picks him up under his arms and goes to place him on the spinning treadmill. And you can see Corey's legs spinning. He doesn't not want to go back on there. So what does Chris, the psychopath, do? He leans over and he opens his mouth and he bites the top of Corey's head, bites it, and throws him on the treadmill. And then after that, the cameras show them walking out of the gym where the narcissist is several feet ahead of Corey. Corey's walking behind him. Skinny little kid. This is not the way a parent treats a child. Walking into a parking lot without holding his hand, a 6-year-old walking into a lot. And then what happens is Corey gets really sick. So sick that Del Creepo has to take him to the hospital. And then after he takes him to the hospital, nah, he doesn't stay there. Nah, he drives off. He actually starts driving to another state to meet up with his girlfriend. Yeah. So little Corey is in distress in the hospital. And he passes away. Imagine torturing a 6-year-old who had bruises all over his body, by the way. So this was not the first rodeo Imagine how many other times that no camera caught. Thank goodness. Thank the universe. Thank karma for having that one video of this psychopath speeding up the treadmill 3 times and then biting him and throwing him back on the treadmill. And as a result, 6-year-old Corey, who 4 years of his life lived a beautiful, happy, healthy life until the narcissist family, the Gregors, stole this child away from Brianna, the mother. And a day before Corey passed, their mother filed for an emergency custody, and it was denied. She filed for emergency custody and was denied. And the next day, her 6-year-old that she tried to protect is gone. So yeah, let's give a shout out to that narcissist Gregor family. I'm looking forward to the sentencing in August. I hope he gets what he deserves. You know, it's really funny. You know the way these criminals around here, they've got their own protocol, their own sense of justice, these stupid Infragard vigilantes. Well, I wouldn't know for sure, but I've heard that prisoners, inmates, you know, like those people there, they have their own sense of justice for child predators. And I'm just going to say, I hope Chris Gregor gets his, and that Corey's family can heal from this. And I hope they're going to file a massive lawsuit against that family and the people that they filed the emergency order with who denied it to them. So anyway, this is just Lorraine on another rant about how children are dealt with in society and how easily, if you've got money, if you've got some badge, you can influence anybody. You can influence a judge to steal your child away, give it to your sick son who ends up putting a 6-year-old on a treadmill, biting his head, and turning up the speed 3 times. I hope this kid, this Chris Gregor, gets everything that's coming to him. And his family, too. If you've got a child out there that is misbehaving, you make sure that they suffer the consequences. They're never going to learn their lesson unless you do. There's nothing good about being an enabler. I know. I could have been an enabler. I was sometimes. Just a quick story. Love my daughter to tears. Love her. She's so brilliant, so intelligent. But when she was a kiddo, she was a little bit of a ditzy. She was very little forgetful, okay? So she would do her homework, and sometimes, not all the time, but she would leave it at home and then go off to school. She'd forget to, not remember to stick it in her book bag, or if it were on the kitchen table, she wouldn't remember to grab it. So what did her enabler mommy do? I would see the homework, and I would get into the car, and I would drive to school, and I would speak to, the desk, and I'd say, could you just give this to my daughter, blah, blah, blah. I thought about it and said, you know what? I'm not going to do that anymore. So one day, she leaves her homework on the kitchen table, and I look at it, and I'm like dying, right? I'm dying thinking, I'm not taking that homework to school. Not doing it. No more. She's got to learn her lesson to take. You did your homework. Just remember to take it to school. So I left it there. So my daughter gets off the school bus and everything, and I'm like, do. And she comes in and she says, how come you didn't bring my homework to school? And it's like, it's not my responsibility to bring your homework to school. You have to remember to bring your homework to school. Well, I'm going to tell you from that day forward, she never forgot her homework again. So there you go, folks. Sometimes parents have to teach their kids a lesson, you know? I enabled her. I would take her homework to school thinking, oh my goodness, you know, she's going to get, you know, she's not going to get her A, she's not going to do this, but you know what? It just doesn't teach them responsibility. From that point forward, she always remembered her homework. Lesson learned. So, parents out there like that trooper, you know, you got a narcissist father who thinks he can buy people with his influence and his money. Well, you're not going to get your son out of this mess. He's going to prison. And I hope there's another lawsuit that's filed against you guys for stealing that child. I call you guys accessories to unaliving. That's right. Anyway, it's my rant for today, June 1st, 2024. This is Lorraine Alternative Homesteading, exposing one criminal at a time. And just remember, the program is viciously covered up with an intricate network of paid conspirators. The Department of Homeland Security even developed another protocol to take out life insurance policies, trust funds, and joint properties in the names of their intended victims, as was done to 9/11 victims. And they have a separate for-profit entity and is selling contracts on innocent people to their buddies in the military-industrial complex to torture and unalive and test. Human weapon testing like gases, poisons, directed energy weapons, nanoparticles, secreted medical chips, and even networks of chips that, according to the Pentagon, is called a torture protocol. Signing off for now.